I have a confession or an admission about myself that may or may not align with stereotypes you may have about people my age. But I have a very low anthropology. A very low anthropology theologically, meaning on one level, I think people are terrible. That's what I'm trying to say, right? And I say that because I love you, and because I love people, and because I love myself. Here's why. In our gospel lesson we just heard, right? We hear this parable about prayer. In this 18th chapter of Luke, we've been hearing Jesus speak and teach about prayer. Last week, we heard this parable about an unjust judge and a poor woman imploring the judge to help. And Marilyn preached a great sermon about perhaps God is the person imploring, not necessarily the judge. Today we hear this story about a Pharisee and a tax collector. I've preached this text many times. There is a very simple and clear way to teach this text. We have this Pharisee who it says is righteous, meaning he is following the law. He is following the rules and expectations. We have a tax collector who is not. This Pharisee is praying and says, "Thank God I'm not like those people. Thank God I am righteous." I've preached this text in other places about asking, who is that person? Who are those people who you are glad you are not? Think about that. Being righteous is a cultural expectation. It is dependent on the culture around you. In this case, in this reading, it's the law. So I grew up in Nashua, New Hampshire, which is just 40 miles north of Boston. In Nashua, New Hampshire, it is righteous to root for the Red Sox. It is not righteous here in San Gabriel to root for the Red Sox, right? It's righteous to root for the Dodgers. So this reading this morning, though, is so much deeper, I would contend, than simply not comparing ourselves to other people, though that's important. There's something that's easily missed in this parable. There's a theme rolling through, and the theme is about altitude. It's about height. I am standing in a pulpit. I am higher elevation-wise than all of you. Presumably, I'm closer to God, right, as we think of those things. In the pulpit I used to preach at in New Hampshire, it was even higher than this, and I would have moments when I could see people doing things as I preached, and I realized they didn't know I could see them. One time I saw this couple, and they were either doing a grocery list or writing notes, and they were writing, and they'd just pass it back and forth. And I wanted to stop and say, "I can see you." So this morning, in this parable, we have two people, a Pharisee and a tax collector, who they say they don't begin in the temple, they begin on the ground floor. They begin among the people. And then it says they go up the mount to pray, to get closer to God. The Pharisee offers this intrinsically centered, self-centered prayer that is about comparing himself to others. And this tax collector, who it says is far off, perhaps doesn't feel worthy, is praying, wanting to be more, not feeling worthy even to look up to God. Jesus, of course, says, which one leaves justified? Which one leaves justified? To be righteous is to act, is to think, is to speak in the way that the culture, the expectations around us ask of us. To be justified. To be justified is to be made worthy before our Maker. To be righteous is about our actions, our thoughts, our words. To be justified is about who God is. Who God is and what that means for us. That's my daughter. And the thing about this point is our liturgy teaches this. Our liturgy, now any of you who come to the 745 liturgy will know this prayer. There's a beautiful prayer at the 745 Rite One liturgy. It's one of my favorites. It's called the Prayer of Humble Access. So I'm going to read it for you all. It says, "We do not presume to come to this thy table, O merciful Lord, trusting in our own righteousness, but in thy manifold and great mercies. We are not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs under thy table, but thou art the same Lord, whose property is always to have mercy. Grant us, therefore, gracious Lord, so to eat the flesh of thy dear Son, Jesus Christ, and to drink his blood, that we may evermore dwell in him, and he in us." My parish in New Hampshire, at the 8 o'clock service that spoke Rite One liturgy, as we do here at 745, there was a young woman. I'm going to say her name is Sarah, but it's not actually Sarah. But her name was, I'm going to call it Sarah. She sat in the second row every Sunday. And at some point, as I got to know Sarah, she was 17, 18, I asked her what her favorite part of the Rite One service was, what her favorite part was. She said it was the prayer of humble access. And I said, "Sarah, why?" It says you're not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs under thy table. And she said, "Right, but you're forgetting the second half of the prayer. You're forgetting the fact that it tells us that God makes us worthy. We do not presume to come to this thy table, O merciful Lord, trusting in our own righteousness, but in thy manifold and great mercies. We are not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs under thy table, but thou art the same Lord, whose property is always to have mercy. Grant us, therefore, gracious Lord, so to eat the flesh of thy dear Son, Jesus Christ, and to drink his blood, that we may evermore dwell in him and he in us." That prayer is all about justification. Not because of what we do, what we say, or what we think, but because of who God is and what that means for us and what that means for humanity. Changes everything. I have 3 daughters. I'm going to teach them in appropriate ways that they are not perfect, that they are broken. And to the degree to which they will ever listen to me, and that's a big what if, right? You have kids. I will teach them that they are broken and finite and in need of love and mercy, because if I teach them that their worth is dependent on their actions, their thoughts, their deeds, their words, that is a setup for failure. They are worthy because of who God is and what that means in their lives and in the world. There are so many reasons for polarity in our culture, so many different understandings of righteousness, without even going to politics. Righteousness based on generation, righteousness based on where you've been, where you've gone to school, what you think, and how you act. What would it mean? What would it mean for Church of Our Saviour to be a place that knew and taught that we are made worthy because of who God is, not what we think, not what we say, not what we do. Undeserved grace because of God. May we be a place that seeks justification more than righteousness.